Hey, I'm not a vlogger, an influencer, or a podcaster. There are no ads, sponsors, or endorsements on any of this. The views, clicks, and impressions on this content have no bearing on my life. I am not a business. I'm not trying to sell you anything. This is just an academic exercise. Welcome to the first episode of Last Week in UTS, where we talk about random things that I ran into last week. I'm at a hotel and all of a sudden my lights stopped working. I call maintenance. Maintenance says we will be there in an hour, but I'm trying to get to bed. I need the lights to work. I look at the thing that's on the wall and it looks sort of like this, very similar. Then I notice that there are some problems with my infotainment system. So I started doing some troubleshooting since I'm not going to wait for maintenance. I noticed a bunch of wires behind the TV, specifically this wire right here that was connected to this weird Bluetooth speaker. I investigate further. I remove it from the wall and here is what I find. Curious, right? Why would you have so many of these things? The thing on the right, you already know what that is, the little black box with the HDMI that's coming out. That's part of the infotainment system. I get it. Ethernet going in, HDMI going out, random phone cable connected to the phone. No problem, totally get it. What about those other white things on the left side of this? What exactly were they? Well, I dug in a little bit and here's what I found. As you see on the screen there, these are some devices from a company called Mode Green Connected Systems. Mode Green tells you themselves that they do some pretty fun or scary stuff depending on how you want to look at it. They say, imagine the perfect guest experience from arrival to checkout. The guest room door opens with a welcome scene of warm light. The room temperature is already perfect as the drapes draw open and the room invites them in. This experience, all seamlessly coordinated from their mobile check-in and as they settle in, easily connecting their device to play music through the television. That's pretty spooky from my end. What they're saying is they UTS hotels. This company, they also go in here and they say, we are not a manufacturer, but they are a trusted liaison between the hotel itself and best in breed solutions. It's like a weird term, right? Best in breed, like I've never heard of it. Whatever. Anyway, that's the Terminator Skynet breeding new electronics, whatever. But what they're saying there is they interconnect all of the different systems within your room. That is the lights, that is the infotainment system, that is the temperature, the drapes, the music, the speaker, the phone, all of those kinds of things. So in my troubleshooting, I kept looking and I found that the device on the wall was again something similar to that device that I had previously put on there. So I looked for the instruction manual and the instruction manual said something interesting. It said that it doesn't operate on its own, but that this communicates with other gateways. In this case, it communicated with the CEN, RF, GWEX, which worked on this protocol called the InfiniNet EX protocol. I dove in a little bit to the InfiniNet EX protocol, but before I get into that, I noticed that it said that neighboring networks, cordless phones, and microwaves were something that could cause interference, but they have this dynamic frequency allocation, whatever functionality that prevents the interference. That told me this is probably running on 2.4 gigahertz. So I started doing a little bit of troubleshooting around the 2.4 gigahertz band, and I found some interesting things. The more I dug in, I found the documentation for that little gateway that they were talking about, that CEN RFGWEX gateway. And I found this in their documentation that it said, since some of the channels that this thing operates on are on the 2.4 gigahertz ISM band, interference can occur with other devices, which is contrary to what the guide for the actual little controller said, which is that these things will not cause interference because they have their dynamic frequency allocation. It turns out there is interference, and the actual spec here, the appendix, tells you that interference can occur with other devices using this band, such as 802.11bg Wi-Fi devices, Crestron InfiniNet devices, which I guess are different than InfiniNet EX devices, Zigbee devices, and although these differing protocols would not allow the connection link to be established or data to be transferred. I don't need to establish a connection or have data transferred to be inconvenienced. I just need someone to be interfering with it, and then it's a denial of service attack. And here, great, the last sentence is awesome, which I highlighted here. It says, wireless 2.4 gigahertz telephones and microwave ovens may cause interference with the network. So I couldn't get to bed because I couldn't turn my lights off or change the temperature in my room because somebody was using an old 2.4 gigahertz cordless phone or a microwave around. This is one of the problems that we face when you start integrating all of these technologies in a very crowded RF space and you don't properly have safeguards, or even not safeguard, just contingencies. Because in this case, I don't think anyone was maliciously trying to conduct a denial of service attack. I just think that I was in a big city, RF spectrum is very crowded, maybe there's someone using a cordless phone, a microwave, I don't know, maybe just screwing with it. But the point is, because of these people trying to make everything so convenient, they made it inconvenient for me. So if you're at a hotel room, stuff stops working, it might be because there's some sort of network connectivity issue. I'm not saying pull your TV off the wall like I did and start doing some troubleshooting and figuring it out, but it doesn't just end there. What you have to start asking yourself is, these devices, are they just enabling the functionality of the things that they're interconnecting, or are they collecting and harvesting data? If I were a corporation, I think I would have to start collecting as much data as I could. Otherwise, I would be doing my shareholders a disservice. Not saying this is a good or a bad thing. All I'm saying is, as a corporation, if I had this many devices in this many locations, I would 100% be aggregating MAC addresses and anything else that I can get, host names, anything flying over the air, preferred network lists from Wi-Fi network beacons to probes, whatever it is. I would get anything that I possibly could. So I think that is something that we have to take into consideration when we are trying to live in a UTS-enabled world. Welcome to 1984.